Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here, and welcome to this new series of webinars jointly organized between Eclipse and OW2. And we had a discussion. We realized that both organizations were engaged in a collaborative project, and that we were sharing the same interests. So we decided to join our efforts to communicate on our respective projects, hence the first edition of this series of webinars. And we will, hopefully we will hold these webinars on a quarterly basis. Our agenda today is, after this brief introduction, we will move to the SmartClide project with the title "The Stairway to Cloud." I like this title by Sebastian Scholze, and there will be a second project presented by Alexandre Lefebvre, and this project is called ReachOut. And then hopefully we'll have an open discussion to wrap up everything.
Yeah, so my name is Philippe Krief. I'm Research Relations Director at the Eclipse Foundation. And we wanted to start with this first webinar by explaining why open source foundations such as OW2 or Eclipse are involved in research projects. So when you look at a research project consortium, you see there are three main profiles. You have industries who are coming with their requirements. You have researchers who are coming with their innovative solutions and who are able to demonstrate this solution through prototypes. And we need also a third profile, which are the vendors, software vendors, who are here to industrialize the researcher solution and to be able to deliver a product to the industry. Now, when you are in this kind of configuration, what happens at the end of the project or for the research project, the industry can decide to leave the project because they are no more interested in any improvement or so on. You can have researchers who are looking maybe for some other fundings and want to give up as well. And you have software vendors who can be bought by another organization and decide to leave also with the code. So if you want to make your project sustain, you have to go open source and to have a chance to be able to replace the missing partner in this configuration. Well, the idea of that is to have this kind of configuration, and a part of your project has to be open source. And an open source foundation such OW2 or Eclipse are here to help you building this kind of solution and during the process.
That's the open source approach for developing code. But there is another message I'd like to share with you today, is that there is a long way between the research and the users and the actual users. So research doesn't work for itself, and the developers, they develop code, proof of concept, use cases, or demonstrators. That's the guy on the right of on this picture here. But the user is on the other side of what you can call a value chain, or something that creates value, because the users, they make business decisions. Well, if they're not researchers themselves, so they work and they decide according to a business usage, and that business usage requires that the software they use has some training, some documentation, packaging, roadmaps, bug fixing, support, legal, even some pricing schemes, etc. So they make a business decision. So it's not only the code that is required; it's like a product, if you like. And that's between the distance between the developer and the user is what we call the delivery challenge. And to address this delivery challenge, specifically in the context of open source software, the value is created by the ecosystem. So what we are doing here is contribute to this ecosystem. The ecosystem is made of the developer itself, systems integrators, software or distribution vendors, the users themselves, they're part of the ecosystem, but also the open source foundations. So what we are doing here, Eclipse and OW2, is provide a platform that enables developers to develop software with some of the product attributes that users would feel comfortable with.
Okay, so we talk about this platform. It's exactly the drone here. You see that you have your open source platform where you can actually work with your partners and with your competitors. It's open source, so it's freely accessible for everybody. But to have this kind of business-friendly environment, you need to have 4 pillars. The first one is the infrastructure, which is an open collaborative infrastructure. And like that, nobody can decide at some point to stop the servers for you. You need also you can take advantage of an existing ecosystem and to build your own community on top of it. You also need to have some governance on your community to be sure that everybody will behave fairly with the rest of the community. And last but not least, you need to have also IP management, intellectual property management, and licensing of the code. And once you have this infrastructure in place, then it's easy for you to compete on your own added values, on your own product against your competitor, and share things on bottom of that. These slides present you the portfolio of research projects where we are involved as a foundation. Some are already done, some others are still running, and I will not go through all of them, but the idea is just to show you the type of domains where we're involved. We're involved in IoT, in embedded systems, in automotive, tools, Industry 4.0. And if you want to have more details, please go to eclipse.org/research. Sorry, Cedric.
It's okay. Yeah, you have your own pages there. And at OW2, we also have a number of open collaborative projects, and the areas are more cloudware, smart cities, software engineering, and support actions. And typically, the ReachOut support actions is the one that will be introduced in this webinar. So that's introduction. But I will not hand over to the first speaker without reminding you that we have another webinar already scheduled on March the 4th, 2021. So save the date. And now we are introducing the first speaker.
Okay, yeah, I will briefly introduce our first speaker, which is Sebastian Scholze. Sebastian is a senior researcher at ATB Research Center in Bremen, in Germany. When he's not playing Celio, Sebastian is involved in diverse projects in several fields, such as automotive, manufacturing, and logistics. Actually, Sebastian is the coordinator of the SmartClide project, a project that wants to build the stairs to make us to the cloud. So, dear Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Okay, very good. Yeah, my name is Sebastian Scholze from ATB. Philippe, sorry, already introduced us. We are a private research institute located in Bremen, northern part of Germany. And I will present you the SmartClide project, very short agenda. We'll speak a little bit about idea and the concept. So this includes our motivation, the approach, which are the targeted users, and what is the value of SmartClide. Then a very quick overview on the SmartClide pilots. And then I think what should be the core, our planned features for the SmartClide project. Yeah, what is SmartClide? An overview of the feature map. Then something about the lifecycle support, and then last but not least, the roadmap. Maybe in the beginning, some facts about SmartClide. So the project titled Smart Cloud Integrated Development Environment, supporting the full stack implementation, composition, and deployment of data-centered services and applications in the cloud. Very long. I think we should now stick to SmartClide. The duration, it started this year, and it's a European research project, runs for 3 years. That means by end of 2020, we will finalize this project. Contribution from European Commission is around 5 million euros, and it's running under this Horizon 2020 ICT 2019 call, which is for cloud computing. And you can also find further information on our website. On the right side in the picture, you can see our partners in the project. And I think we have a quite nice mixture of universities, research organizations, technology providers, and 4 pilot partners. We are located in Portugal, Spain, UK, Greece, Luxembourg, and Germany. These are is the map of our partners. And then let's go into the details. So, motivation for SmartClide. I think we could somehow claim that cloud computing somehow can be considered as one of the main enablers for digital transformation, because it somehow allows organizations so that you can disengage growing of organizations from the need of these underlying infrastructures. And yeah, digital transformation, changing every sphere of society, and this, especially this year, at a very fast pace. It has technological and cultural breakthroughs, and what we claim, cloud computing and agile methodologies, these are some the key enablers of digital transformation. And with SmartClide, we aim to boost the adoption of such cloud solutions. And you can see this on the bottom. Our idea is to support developers in producing cloud services, and by this then also support digital transformation. Yeah, our approach, what I already said, we want to boost the adoption of cloud solutions, but you all know we have some limitations, classical limitations in developing software solutions. What we believe, these 3 are the crucial ones. So the first one, creating solutions from scratch is time-consuming, complex, and expensive. And I think all of us know this. What we are aiming in SmartClide is that we will be able, by applying SmartClide, to have a faster and more efficient development of cloud services, to get some deeper insights on how cloud and code works. The second limitation from our point of view is if you want to reuse software. So composition of existing services is theoretically it's possible, but in practice it's somehow limited due to non-uniform classification and documentation. And on top, you always have a compromise between quality of service and security. Our aims here is we want to provide more secure and easy ways to reuse quality code. So code that is really of good quality, and gaining trust and facilitating the reuse of services. And then the third limitation, predict and control costs is very difficult using price models of public cloud providers. And if you are aware on how this is working, I think you would agree to this. And our aim is to be a code learning tool, deeper understanding on the costs of the cloud. So what are our targeted users? Of course, the primary user for a development environment is the developer. But if you look at the team of developers, we can easily involve some more actors. And I think that's quite crucial, that we can also support users doing other things in a software development project. For example, product designers, by integrating tools in an IDE, you can support them so to be part of the team or closer to the developer team. Then Scrum Masters and product owners, you can provide them with metrics so that they are always aware on the current state of a project, but also a sponsor, so or someone who is, you can provide them also some different types of metrics so that they are always aware on the status of a project. But we believe that SmartClide has not only value for the development team, but also for the project and also to the end users. And because when you involve the end user in early testing, you have a very agile approach, and this always has a very nice feedback to the development team. So these are our targeted users, whereby the focus is on the developer. Before we go a little bit more into detail of the SmartClide IDE, I want to talk very briefly about our 4 pilots. Very different pilots, but all of these companies are developing software. So pilot 1 is platforms for social security organizations. That's a large company from Luxembourg. Pilot 2, it's a company, a medium-sized company from Portugal. They are providing an IoT catalog. The third pilot is also an SME from Spain, and they are providing real-time communication platforms, especially for voice and video communications. And the pilot 4 is a German, I would say, mid-cap. They provide PDM, PLM solutions. So you see, that's very different pilots, but all of them have something in common. They all provide platforms, and they are developing services around their platforms. That means they need high customization, reuse of code, and we believe that's a very good fit for testing and evaluating our SmartClide technologies. So what is SmartClide? Yeah, it's a cloud IDE, cloud-based development environment. We claim that by being a cloud-based IDE, we can support the collaboration of different stakeholders inside the team. And it will be based on the coding by demonstration paradigm. And then from underlying technologies, we see our key components is the service composition, the service discovery, and in the background, the deep learning engine. By service composition is if you want to create a service, a software service, SmartClide will support you in this by checking already available services, providing you hints and tips. So create control data and operation abstractions. And it will be able to combine abstractions to create new services. For the service discovery, the idea is to integrate in or to import in a repository already existing services and resources. And if you search for something, for example, a logging service, if you want to create this, that the service discovery provides you with suggestions which service you might reuse. And in order to be able to support a developer in discovery of services and the composition of services, we need in the background something like a deep learning engine, where we want to create automatic software classification, context identification, and the selection of abstractions, and then also some programmatic output generation. Now I would like to show you something about discovery of services, and after this, composition of new services. Yeah, what is the problem with discovery services? You know, you have some registries like UDDIs. You can automatically expose available resources and cloud services. And one could say this does already exist. Yes, that's true to some extent, but we want to provide something more. So additional information so that we can better classify if we can reuse a service, so decision support. And for this, we want to include descriptions about existing services, certifications, other service and applications using the proposed service. Also, we want to include the opinions from other users and also a comparison with other similar services. And we want to use for this ontology-based techniques so that we are able to identify these cloud service categories. Now, if you know how to discover services, we can also think on composition of new services. And here we want to create new services either from scratch or by composing several existing services into a new one. And hereby we want to support the full life cycle. If you need coding, we want to support this coding by demonstration. All the code, what we create or what is created using SmartClide should be reusable and directly testable. We want to support high level of abstractions, of course, a version control and configuration management. And I think what's very interesting is this insightful source code monitoring, so that we can analyze the source code so that in future you can get better prediction proposals for reuse. And we also want to have some cost simulation of services to be created. Yeah, here you can see on one picture our features map. That's more or less what I already explained. On top, you can see everything what is somehow related to the user interface, and then in the middle, the backend services, and on the bottom, existing technologies which we aim to integrate. Of course, we are not thinking on integrating every of these tools, but some of these tools over an open API. Our idea is that we base SmartClide on the Eclipse GIA platform. And in principle, all of these things I already explained. Then about the lifecycle support in the idea, I already said that we want to support the full lifecycle from planning to monitoring. For this, we want to integrate existing tools on the market, and we believe by integrating existing solutions, something like, for example, Git or Jira or GitLab, we can achieve an extreme optimization, which I think is necessary to get better outputs during the software development. Our roadmap. I said that we started with our project this year. So we just finalized our milestone 1. So concept and architecture is done. We had our first review meeting already, and we got very nice feedback. Seems that reviewers are happy with our achievements right now. Then mid of next year, we expect the first prototypes. So that means now we are in this phase between 1 and 2. Then with these first prototypes, we will ask our pilot partners so that they can do first testing. Then mid 2020, we expect the final prototypes, and by end of 2020, we will be ready for the final demonstration of the SmartClide technologies. And I think what's very interesting, the SmartClide technologies are planned to be published as open source under EPL. And we discussed this in the consortium, and this is right now our plan. And as coordinator, we already started submitting some of our background technologies as under EPL to the Eclipse repositories. And that's it from SmartClide.
Thanks a lot,
If you have
Sebastian.
any questions or suggestions, I'm happy to try to answer.
I would have a question. So since you're doing this big cloud project, and in Germany and also Europe now, I think everybody's talking about Gaia X, and it seems to be like the current hype initiative. I would be interested to know, but do you have a relation to them? Are you involved, or do you see where you would fit into this initiative?
No, we have no direct relation with them, and we're also not involved. But my colleague Philippe So not the Philippe in this call from ATB, my colleague. He just these days contacted a provider which is offering Gaia compliant cloud solutions. So because we want to get in touch with them to start learning what we have to do to be Gaia X compliant. But this just started recently.
Yeah. Maybe one other question. You had this use case about what it was called IoT catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a bit what this is about? This IoT.
This IoT catalog is it's created from a Portuguese company, and you can enter your IoT solutions, either hardware or software, enter these in the catalog, and for example, search for solutions which you, yeah, if you need a sensor for, I don't know, agri-food, for example, you could go to this IoT catalog and search for such solutions, and it will provide you a list of potential hardware and services to support or to fulfill your search request. So it's a little bit like a marketplace without the marketplace functionality. It's really a catalog for hard and software.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Sebastian. Now it's time for a second presentation in this webinar by Alexandre Lefebvre. So Alexandre, you could get ready to share your screen.
Thank you for welcoming me to present ReachOut in this webinar. So I'll make a first introduction about the project. So what is ReachOut? So ReachOut is it's also a part of H2020, but in the 2018 I can't remember program, and it's a small coordination and support action. So the duration of the project is 3 years, 2019, 20 and 21. So we're about 2/3 of the project, and our objective is to help European projects develop their market value and reach out to their end users. That's the name of the project. And how do we do that? We help them develop their own beta testing campaigns. So this is what it's all about. And it's not only open to European research projects, but also to any European SME and to any open source projects. There are 3 partners in that in the ReachOut project. So the first one being Fraunhofer Focus, who's the coordinator of the project, and OW2, who's also a partner, and ourselves, UShareSoft, and myself, I'm from UShareSoft. So where does the beta testing campaign typically fit in a project? So beta testing campaign is some kind of acceptance testing. So typically you would have a first alpha version that's been developed, and then when you have a beta version, this is when you should be able to run a beta testing campaign. So it's when you open your results, which start becoming industrial or market ready to external users. It's time bound, and this is where you want to get feedback from end users. So why do you want to do this? There's a number of benefits that the beta testing campaign can give to you. The first one is actually not the first one you would think about, but especially for larger projects such as collaborative research projects, running a beta testing campaign helps all the partners in the project align their expectations. It's like a focus point where they can say, okay, now we have some results. Is that the right ones we want to share? Are we ready? So it helps them focus at one point together and get back together on something that they can focus on, which is the beta version that's going to be tested. Then the 3 other benefits, typically it will generate or it will increase the quality of your results because, well, you get external people testing your software or your results, which is always good, and they can find out some issues and then you can fix them. The second one is it's not as much about the software results or the results themselves, but all the other product attributes which you have to have ready when you run a beta testing campaign. So we're thinking about packaging. Your software should be well packaged. It should be installable. We're thinking about documentation and tutorials. If you want users to be able to use it, you should have some documentation to tell them what to do with it, how it works. And also during the duration of the campaign, when you have your beta testers testing the software, you should be ready. You should have some infrastructure or some team organized to provide them some support. And also, in order to advertise your campaign, you need to do some promotion. So you're getting closer to marketing area there. So that's all the other product attributes, which is not just the actual result itself, but all the other stuff that makes the product usable by beta testers. And of course, by getting feedback from external users, you might identify some further exploitation opportunities, which you might or might not have thought about before. So, what we like to say is that, well, if a project is able to develop and implement their own beta testing campaign, it means that they've reached some important milestone. It proves that the project has something, it has what it takes to engage with external actors, to bring value to the market, to develop their own ecosystem. So this is also one of the reasons why Europe is funding ReachOut, because they have seen in the past that many research projects have produced some results which were not adequate for the market or which were too far from the users. So by running beta testing campaigns, it's one step forward to being market ready and to get closer to the users. So what do we do in ReachOut to support all this? So we've first of all we've developed a methodology which is a 5-stage methodology to help the people implement their own beta testing campaign. So all the details on the website. There's a document and there's a set of slides, which is the superset of this one. And so basically, there's 5 stages. There's the strategy stage, which helps you define well, the objectives of the campaigns, the role of the different people involved, the support, all the incentives for the beta testers. Then there's the technology side, where you need to package your software, prepare some scenario. You cannot just tell users use it. You have to guide them by putting some scenario that you want them to execute, and also define the precise questions that you want to ask them to get the optimal feedback. Then there might be some writing to be done. So you want to write what we call a campaign page describing the beta testing campaign, possibly a leaflet, documentation and tutorials. Then there's the campaign itself. So you promote a campaign, and then you recruit the beta testers, they provide their feedback, and in the end there's a closing phase with some reporting to be done, and we have this notion of campaign dashboard, which I'll describe in a few seconds. So for all these steps, we have put together an infrastructure. So here is a brief overview of the architecture. So basically, it's based on pre-existing components which we had provided by OW2, which were XWiki, Fusion Directory, and Simpa, and also the LDAP of OW2. To which we have added an instance of Lime Survey, and we've also connected it with the UShareSoft UForge factory, which can be used to package your software if you don't have it packaged prior to this. So we've developed some XWiki classes, and in order to integrate the various components, we had to develop what we call wrappers. So it's basically pieces of codes or which you put in XWiki, following the XWiki component way of developing those wrappers. And so there's one for connecting with Fusion Directory, one for connecting with Simpa using their SOAP interface, and one connecting with Lime Survey. And since we're about open source as well today, so all these wrappers that we have developed, we decided that we'd put them in open source because they could be valuable for someone who wants to use them, who knows. So they're available as open source on the OW2 GitLab. You'll find the link on the ReachOut platform. So what have we done beside that? Well, we've developed for all the key elements, we've developed a set of templates for each of the blocks that are required to build a campaign, and I'll go through them now. So the first one is a homepage. So we've made ReachOut self-service. So when you go to the website, you can self-register, and when you register, you get you get an account, and you can automatically have access to all the resources, create your own campaign. So the first step is you describe what your project is all about, and then you have access to all the resources. So the campaign page itself can be filled in with a form. So we provide a form which guides you to create the campaign, where you put as information your logo and website. You describe the campaign itself. What are the dates? What are possible requirements? So do you need to have some special software, desktop, or data, knowledge? So that's all the requirement part. Then you describe the scenario. You can also put links to where you can download the software or access it if it's a SaaS service, links to documentation. And one point which I'll come later, back later to, is incentives. So what will beta testers get for their work? And on the side, when you create the campaign page, we generate a mailing list which can act as a forum to interact between the beta testers and the campaign managers, should they have any questions, or should they need help during the testing phase. So we automatically also, with this campaign, we provide a monitoring dashboard. It's like, if you want, it's a 24 checkpoint self-evaluation list. So it's fairly visual. We've tried to make it simple to use. So there's 8 points about the management. So to make sure that you've made all the organization decisions, that you've got the right persons appointed, and the scope of the campaign is clearly defined, etc. Then we have 8 questions about the preparation, whether all these technical elements are ready, the documentation, the product, the fine print, etc. And then we have one for the execution with 8 questions regarding the questionnaires, whether it's live, whether you've promoted them, and whether you've got the answers back. So this dashboard can also be used in the case of a research project, to report to the reviewers, and also to communicate with your partners. Then there's the questionnaire itself. So as I said, we've integrated Lime Survey. However, we felt that rather than giving you access to an empty survey in Lime Survey, we did some research about what a good questionnaire is. And so what we found is we found some literature about it, and there should be a mix of open and closed questions. So we came up with this sample questionnaire that we generate of 34 questions in different sections, a mix of open and closed questions. You can reword each of them. You can erase all of them if you don't like them. You can add your own. So that's something that we can also help you with, to support you doing this. So we've had campaigns who had their questionnaires beforehand. So what they did is they just entered their own. We've had other campaigns who just relied on the ones we provided because it seemed good for them, and we've had other ones who mixed their own questions with the ones we propose. So that's quite good. And so the features of Lime Survey is that every time there's a questionnaire return, the campaign manager gets an email. At any time, they can view statistics about the responses. You can export them in any format. So it's a handy tool that that we've been using. It's a nice open source alternative to Google Forms, not to name them. So we offer a number of other templates and tools which can all be accessed on the Beta Center. So we provide documentation templates with a checklist. We provide a fairly extensive communication package to help you promote the campaign. So this contains a number of predefined emails, contents for tweets as well that you can use to promote your campaign. We provide some guidelines to recruit and motivate beta testers. We provide all the necessary fine prints, so privacy, GDPR related stuff. And at the end of the campaign, we're also here to help you. And if you need us to put together the report, either for your project or for the reviewers, if you want. So one point which is important is how you recruit beta testers and what are the incentives you can give them. So in general, what we tell projects is that the projects themselves probably know their potential beta testers better than we do. So that could be colleagues, partners, universities. Quite often they don't think that students of university partners are good candidates, but they usually are. Even their colleagues who don't work on the project but might be interested. However, by joining ReachOut, if you put your campaign in ReachOut, you become part of our ecosystem. So you can benefit from previous projects who have put their campaigns, and we will expect from you that for future campaigns, you can provide beta testers as well from your project to other future beta testing campaign. And also in terms of recruiting beta testers, we run a newsletter and we put some promotion material, for example, also in our Twitter account and our LinkedIn account. Another way to attract beta testers is to give them some incentives. So one of the incentives could be simply project goodies. So project goodies, if you have any, t-shirts or mugs or things like this. But more generally, beta testers are more than happy if you just mention the names just for recognition. So you can do that on your website. In ReachOut, we have a page on the Beta Center where we can list those beta testers who have agreed to have their name appear. And usually we have a good feedback when we tell them, look, we have this Hall of Fame. Would you like your name and affiliation to appear? And most of the time they're very happy and they thank us for doing it. So it's quite good. And so two important things is that we have, so Europe being generous with us, we have some money to run a ReachOut lottery at the end of the project. So all the beta testers who've provided some feedback will be part of the lottery if they provided their email address. And also we have the possibility, because we didn't travel, to give beta testers some financial incentives, so we can work that out with you in terms of, and we can adjust the amount, but we can give some money to beta testers. So just to wrap up, so the timeline of the campaign could be something between 1 to 5 months, depending how ready you are or not when you start contacting us. Between the preparation phase, then the recruitment phase and the actual campaign itself, and the wrap up. So that's something that we work on it together. And how do you get started if you want to use ReachOut? Well, basically, as I said, it's all self-service. So you go to the platform, you register your project, and what happens is that we see that you've registered. So we can arrange an online presentation with you. We can also organize a webinar with yourself or with the plenary meeting in your project. We've done that in the past as well to see whether there's an interest here. And then when you register, of course you have access to all the self-service material I said, but we can help you at any time. So we've been doing that for a number of projects where we help them. Well, we first check that everything's complete. We help them technically if there's any need with Lime survey, etc. And of course, we help them promote the campaign together. So so basically, it's all, and also one thing that we like to insist on is that it's all free. So we're paid by Europe to do so, and it's also available for SMEs for free, and it's also available for open source projects for free. That includes access to the platform and our hopefully helpful support. So so that just to show you the beta center, so that's actually the website here. We've tried to make things as simple as possible. So if you're a project leader, you go here and you can register by simply clicking on this button, which takes you to the registration page, and then you get an access code. So it's very simple. And if you're a beta tester, you're taken here, and then you can view here the number of campaigns that we have on ReachOut, which are open at the moment, and the past ones here that we've had so far. And I think I'll stop here and take some questions if you have any.
I was wondering what is the best time to launch this kind of testing campaign, beta testing campaign in a research project? And can we launch
It's
several campaigns for the same project?
Sure. Yeah, so it's a good question. So typically, you should launch the beta testing campaign when you feel confident that your results can be put in the hands of somebody who hasn't developed it. So it's what we call the beta version. So it should be somewhat stable, somewhat usable. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be bug free. And there's several types of campaign. One is to get, I mean, the main thing is to get some feedback. So you shouldn't use it to, well, you could use it to have the users find the bugs for you because you haven't done any tests beforehand, but that's the bad reason. The good reason is really to get some feedback. So it could be even simple things. You could do a campaign to say, look, do this scenario, and in scenario A, we propose you this design or this way of performing computation. In scenario B, we propose the other one. Which one do you prefer? That could be a valid campaign, just a simple A or B. And of course, in a typical research project or project, there's several modules. So each module could have their own campaign tested separately. So we've had that in, I think Articonf has had a number of different campaigns for different little things that they had, very short in time to get feedback. So there's, yes, you're very welcome to do as many campaigns as you want for different modules. As soon as you have something that somebody external can play with, so you might have to help them by providing, if it's some data crunching software, you might help them with providing some sample data sets, for example. But as soon as you want or you'd like to have some external evaluation, you can do it.
To you.
One question: do you have plans to continue this work after the CSA has ended, like, you know, providing this as a service or something like this?
We really have the plan to continue the service. Now we're still working on the business model because today it is of course subsidized by the H2020 project. So what we intend to do is, based on the experience we've built, is continue to offer this service to either research projects, SMEs, and open source projects out of Europe.
Thanks.
But definitely now, right at the moment, we are really building something to be continued. Yes.
I mean, that sounds very useful for research projects to have something like this, right? And to know that every project has, like, to start from scratch doing a beta testing campaign. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, we felt that many projects were targeting researchers, whereas the Commission wants the project to target real market.
Yeah.
So this there are many ways to link a researcher and a developer with real use cases, for instance. That's one of those ways. But we realized that beta testing was one of the mechanisms that would help researchers and developers to work together with a real life user as a target, instead of just developing technology for the sake of developing technology, but developing something that can be used. And we also realized, because it's something that we've done in other projects before, that it was very useful in terms of feedback, as Alexandre mentioned. So we can even identify ways to use the software that had not been imagined by the partners.
Yeah, just one question on the requirements around the open source projects utilizing ReachOut. Is there any specific requirements in terms of the licenses used or exactly where they're hosted, these projects?
Well, actually, ReachOut is very liberal, because the remit is to provide this service to research projects, open source projects, and European SMEs.
So there's no limit.
Or proprietary. At this stage, there is no. For the Eclipse code base or the OW2 code base, we as open source foundations, we are very careful to what sort of licenses come with the project that we would be accepting. Whereas ReachOut is very, very ecumenic and agnostic.
Okay. Yep, no.
Thank you, Cedric. So thanks for joining this first webinar, and for staying to the end. And thanks to the speakers for their great presentations. And we really hope to see you very soon in March, actually, in 2021. And it will be, again, a remote session. And we will present two other research projects, one coming from OW2 decoder, decoder for developer companion for documented and annotated code reference, and another project, Basis, which is industry 4.0 project, and the Basics is actually the open source project delivered by the Basis research project. It's typical German project, and it will be also presented during this March session. So two very different projects, but two very interesting projects and mature project, I'm sure. So thank you again for your time. We wish you great holidays. Take some rest, stay safe, and really hope to see you soon in good shape next year.